what is ERP? What does it really mean? I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of in the name too, enterprise resource planning, right? It's a set of tools and applications and technology that really are all linked together for an enterprise.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hi, everybody. This is John Gerard. I'm here with the Business Ninjas podcast. And joining me today is Dan Vanacore from Cloud9 ERP Solutions. He's the Director of New Business Development over there. Dan, welcome to the program.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. We had such a fun, wide-ranging conversation last time we talked. I've been looking forward to this one for a long time, and would love to get your story out there a little bit. So tell us first of all a little bit about you and how long you've been involved in the cloud ERP space.
Sure thing. Thanks, John. Appreciate that introduction. So I as well enjoyed our conversation a couple weeks ago. It covered a wide range of topics, and it was quite delightful. So
we solved most of the world's problems in that call. I don't know that we'll be able to remember everything we talked about, but we can give it a shot.
That's right. We could try to recreate it and see how far we get.
Yes.
But yeah, I do. I appreciate you having me today. A little bit about me. I've been in the ERP space now for better part of 30 years. Started out helping companies implement ERP systems initially, and then migrated to the software world, where I became engaged with a number of software companies over the years, some very large names, Oracle, PeopleSoft, SAP.
Mhm.
And at present, I'm at a value-added reseller for a company called Acumatica. Where our company is Cloud9 ERP Solutions, and we specialize and focus on the small and medium-sized market for cloud ERP. Acumatica has grown dramatically over the years since 2008, and it's really made a mark in this overall industry for cloud-based solutions. Many companies we work with across many different industries like manufacturing, wholesale distribution, services, retail, e-commerce, have grown with legacy systems or homegrown systems that have become dated and need to be updated. And so
technical debt that accrues
a
few years or a decade of systems.
Yeah.
So it's funny to me, by the way, on that note. I mean, I'm sure you see this all the time, but we're at the stage in the development of technology and ERP where there are people who've had systems in place for 25 years, which sounds, a quarter of a century, right? Which is pretty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. And it's almost hard to imagine today that companies are still operating and doing business with systems that are that old, but they do.
Yeah, it's not with what was it, COBOL or Fortran coders that the banks needed back in 1999, but it's close.
Yeah, for sure.
That's amazing.
Sure.
So one thing I wanted to do, because this is sort of a general business podcast, is I'd love for you to just explain what ERP is. I think probably most people know generally that it stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. And I think a lot of us that sort of may be the end of our understanding of it. Like, it does some important things on the enterprise side, but maybe you could just kind of tell us, in your own words, what it does, and maybe even one sort of case example, like, here's exactly how it helps an organization to save costs or increase revenues.
Sure. No, that's a great question. Yeah, and we still get that today. Sometimes on our calls or introduction to customers, they'll ask, well, what is ERP? What does it really mean? I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of in the name too, enterprise resource planning, right? It's a set of tools and applications and technology that really are all linked together for an enterprise, right? So every business, every company that you come across has different aspects to their business, right? They have a financial component. They have shipping and logistics. They have warehousing. They have distribution. manufacturing, e-commerce in a lot of instances.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a field services component where they have techs that go out in the field to service equipment or maintain it and so forth. So you have all these different aspects of a business that in many instances, with a lot of dated systems like we talked about, don't talk to one another.
Right.
They're separate.
Yeah.
And it's no fault of the company, but over the years they've acquired different systems and have used them in kind of this siloed effect.
Yeah.
But over the course of, let's say, 20, 25 years, they're disparate and they have to use manual means to take data from one system, update the other to make sure they're all talking and integrated and so forth. So at a high level, ERP systems like Acumatica bring all of that together in one integrated solution.
That's fantastic. And so it's funny. I bet you have seen some crazy manual processes over the years. I don't know if any come to mind in particular that you're just, but I'm imagining people like, taking file cabinets and, and documents and certainly, trying to export to CSV or Excel and then trying to import on the other side and getting the field mappings wrong. And I mean, there must be just all kinds of, no end of the nightmares that people have before they get to you.
Yeah, it's exasperating, right? A lot of times when we start to engage with a customer, you could sense the exasperation in their voice, right? It's they're doing they end up, their jobs become just supporting the systems to make sure that things don't break, things operate the way they should, the data is there, and there's this constant over their shoulder, worry that at some point, if they're not, manually involved in the process, that something's going to break, right? They're going to miss a customer order, or they're not going to, be able to bill or invoice correctly.
Yes.
So there's a lot riding on it when you think about it, when these companies try to manage these disparate systems. Absolutely.
God forbid the man or woman who set up the system, 15 years ago retires or something, and now nobody
Absolutely
how to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, amazing. So tell us a little bit about the approach that you guys take and how you distinguish yourself in a market with some really, really big players. I think one of the things that really struck me about your approach is that it's very hands-on, very personal. It seems very boutique, which I think must be reassuring to, the segments that you're serving. That probably a lot of them are sort of too small to get the attention of the extremely big players. And you must be kind of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, no, that's a great question too. And yeah, to your point, yeah, we are kind of a boutique approach, right? We're very hands-on. We spend a lot of time with our customers up front, doing the discovery, understanding their requirements, really delving into their current systems, where they feel there's challenges today, and not only where they want to be in 2 to 5 years, but where are you trying to be with your business 5, 10, 15 years out? What does that look like for you? What do you want to be in that time period? And one of the things too we try to really focus on is where do you want to grow the company? What are some of the things that you can use the technology to help you gain more market share, or do better reach out to customers in terms of your e-commerce site? What are some of the things that are going to help you differentiate yourself with your competition by using a software like Acumatica? So we follow a process that I think is very heavy on the front end, really understanding the customer and where they want to go, and how we take those requirements and then translate that to the software so that they can see real time how the software can help them improve their overall efficiencies.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so I think one of the things I was really intrigued by, we have a lot of folks on that are listeners here that are sales roles and sales oriented. And I think the sales tips and tricks that come out of these podcasts are especially well received. You said some really amazing things about, it's telling customers when it's maybe not the right time for them, or or being a real sounding board and a real solution provider. I think we even talked about, like, it's actually better to stop a conversation early if it really isn't a fit, and that may then become a fit later, and they're going to come back and engage you then because of the honesty. And I was wondering if you could kind of expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's one of the pillars too in terms of how we operate. It's not meant to sound snobby, but we want to be able to align and partner with companies that are really committed to do something and move forward and to choose us as their trusted advisor and partner. And you work with companies that are along that spectrum in different phases. Some may be just looking for information where, they just want to gather that and kind of maybe plan for something down the road. Others may be somewhat committed, but yet they don't have their management or executives approval. So they're kind of halfway there, but not ready. But one of the things we'll really focus on is to ferret that out early on and determine, which customers are ready to go. And it's okay if you're not.
Yep.
If it's something that you need to push out or maybe revisit down the road, then that's okay too. But we really make a point of, explaining to customers, look, it's not going to hurt my feelings
Right.
if now's not the right time. I'll call back in 6 months or a year when it is time. And one of the things we really do try to help with customers is to get them to think differently about their business and to kind of challenge some of the status quo.
Mm.
A lot of companies like in this space are really promoting the feature functionality of the product and so forth. And it's a tried and true method, but again, it's not getting customers to think critically sometimes about their business, right? Because they're so involved in it day to day, but it's our job to kind of point these things out where maybe they haven't thought about these things before.
Yeah. That's very interesting. Yeah. And so you actually really get to put on the sort of business consultant hat a bit and
Yeah,
challenge people and say, well, why are you doing it this way? And it's
right.
the purview that you have in terms of what software might be able to do to automate and introduce efficiencies. You can probably make some pretty big suggestions about optimization.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that's what companies are looking for today too, is not just the software vendor, but, like you said, that trusted advisor, someone that's going to bring that wealth of experience where they've worked with, hundreds of companies before, and they're bringing these best practices to specific industries and challenging the status quo and maybe getting that customer to the point where that light bulb goes off and say, wow, I had never thought of that before. And that to me is where, you could really differentiate yourself from, the other providers out there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've been through a couple of buying cycles with some of the bigger vendors where, they're sort of presenting the menu and saying, well, what do you want? And that's not terribly helpful when I'm trying to figure out how to solve, real business problems inside the organization. Like, if I knew what I wanted, we probably wouldn't be talking like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's incumbent upon the vendor to kind of to lead that customer
Yes.
where they need to go in a professional way, right? Versus just sitting back with your arms crossed saying, just like you described, well, what do you want? What do you need? We can do that. I mean,
Yeah.
they've heard that so much before. It's not really providing the kind of value that they should come to expect.
Yeah. Makes sense. Well, so now you've been in this space for long enough that you've got some great pattern matching as far as, the cycles, economic cycles, and you've seen a couple of massive disruptions in the industry with banking crisis in 2007, 8, and with COVID, I guess we could say, is a pretty big one. And then we've also got ourselves a little bit of here we are in May of 2023 with a little bit of a slump in global markets. I'm curious to sort of get your take on, what happens in this space in times of pullback. I know you've got a little bit of action or activity that's happening right now that's exciting. It seems like people either are freezing all budgets and saying, we're just not going to do anything right now. And then other people sort of use the opportunity to retool and to say, actually, now's a great time to work on these internal efficiencies, because that's actually how we're going to create more margin out of the business we already have.
No, that's so true. I think you really did articulate it well. And a conversation I had just a few days ago was that very same conversation where I was talking to a potential prospect, and the initial goal is for companies to constantly reach out and gain more market share, gain more customers, right, and grow the revenue. It's the goal of every company to grow the business. But one of the things I was talking to this printing company about is sometimes you got to kind of look internally within the four walls, right? Where are there places to maximize better data collection or better management of your inventory, or reducing maybe the amount of people that you're out there hiring, and maybe looking at internal systems to improve your overall process inside the four walls. Because essentially, if you do that, it's that old adage, if you pick up enough nickels and dimes, right, it adds up.
Yeah.
And we find that very true. And a lot of companies, I think, today are looking internally, particularly given the challenging economic times like you described, where customer acquisition, more market share is still there, but their customers themselves may be holding back and maybe not spending like they should or would have in another year. So they take this opportunity to look inside and say, "Wow, what am I what do my processes look like today, and where is there opportunity to improve or gain better efficiencies?"
Yeah. And it seems like there's so many teams too, where it's in that rapid expansion phase where, they say, well, we're just holding on. Like we're just sort of trying to execute the
Yeah.
process. We don't have time to look at this stuff. And there is actually strangely an opportunity when things are a little slower to take, some introspection and take a look at what might be able to change internally.
And that's what you're saying is a lot of times the conversations we have too is that yes, this may not seem like the best time to do this, but it actually is. If the business is, a little bit slower, or you have this window where you can go in and be able to truly look and see where some of these opportunities might exist, versus when things are ramped up and it's busy and the economy's robust, you're really just kind of heads down, just taking care of everyday business. But in many instances, these times prove the best to kind of reevaluate and take an assessment. You're exactly right.
Makes a ton of sense. So are most of the folks that you work with transitioning from homegrown on-prem, big brand or competitor on-prem, or from something in the cloud to cloud? Like where are people coming from when they find you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. They all walks of life, right? They could have been on QuickBooks for a number of years, right? A very basic, kind of starter financial package for small businesses, but they've grown, and now they know they need a more sophisticated integrated solution. Many come from legacy systems like you described, on these systems for 25 years.
Yeah.
They're not cloud-based. They're not integrated. They're costly, from a maintenance perspective. And
Grandson built it
yeah,
in
yeah,
1998. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Some are still, server and PC based, where you have to make sure that everything is in line with the latest version and so forth. And
Definitely don't wiggle any cables because that would bring the whole
that's right. Right. If something's not right, you got to kind of bang the side of the computer. But so, yeah, so they come, some are homegrown. We work with a lot of companies where, the owner's nephew or son has written programs, right? And this is very true, right? And they become very proprietary. They become very protective because it's a family member. So, there's a lot of, finessing, and, the father may not want to change, but the children that are going to come and run the business at some point when the father retires or whatever, or the mother,
Yeah.
they expect systems that are integrated and are in the cloud and are Windows based and so forth. So it's a delicate balancing act from everything under the sun. So, and you have to be prepared for it too, and work It depends on the situation and how you approach it and so forth. So
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by those stories, and I could see how in the space where you are, you get to see a lot more in terms of like what's behind closed doors or swept under the rug or whatever it is. All the secrets about the inefficiencies of systems are likely to come out in the discovery period when you're looking at rolling something like this out.
yeah, and the thing I find most fascinating is that I came from a big environment working with enterprise software,
Mhm.
to the Fortune 500 for many many years. But with this role and this job that I do now, it puts me directly in line with these small and medium-sized businesses where, they may be 20, 25, 50 people, right? But yet they are, responsible for those employees and they're trying to grow their business and they have people that count on them and so forth. So I find it very rewarding where, we can help. And to me too, the small and medium-sized business market is really the backbone of the country, right? I mean, a lot of the growth and hiring and so forth is directly related to the small business growth and
Yep.
market in this country. So it's rewarding when you're able to help these companies put in systems that are going to help them grow and hire and maintain their business
Yeah.
in that regard. So,
Yeah.
and you're dealing directly too with owners and, family members that have been in the business. So you develop a personal relationship with which is very rewarding.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can see it being a lot more sort of intimate and personal than the Fortune 500 where everybody's a hired gun. You're
Yeah.
talking to people who have, through blood, sweat, and tears built this thing, and that's frankly a different level of responsibility as a vendor.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of pride, right? You
Yeah,
have some of these companies that have been around, 75
yeah,
years or longer, and generations of family members have, worked in the business and, they have a lot of people depending on them and a lot of jobs and so forth. So it's fun. It's exciting. It's always a different and unique story every time you start to engage with a company like that.
yeah. That's very exciting. What advice do you think you have for other folks that might be listening about how to sell into these family businesses? Folks that maybe have other offerings that they're looking to expand into this segment. I mean, because it sounds to me like what you're describing is that it's a very specific kind of a sale.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is to listen. A lot of salespeople, especially younger ones, right? They want to do a lot of the talking, right? They want to promote the product. They want to show you all these bells and whistles and how great it is, and that's all good. But I think you really have to take the approach where let me take one of understanding first and kind of a servant mentality is where,
Mm.
hey, I want to help. I want to provide value. I want to be able to help you grow and understand your requirements. And I think if you do that and you do it well, then you'll earn their trust. The first thing they're looking for is, can I trust this person?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you can't overcome that
Yeah.
initially, it's very hard to move the conversation forward.
I love that. Yeah. That's sales 101 right there. And I think
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
more, as you're pointing out, probably important everywhere, even more important in this market when you're working with family owned businesses and folks that have been around for a while.
absolutely, absolutely.
Well, let's talk for a second. Now, you've had experience with on-prem, and I realize I used that earlier. On-premise, meaning that they're hosting their own servers or having a colo facility, and now cloud solutions. And I'm curious, this for a lot of us seems like, well, the cloud's been around for quite a while, and yet it sounds to me like there's a lot of folks, migrating to the cloud for the first time. And I'm curious to hear more about that. And what is it like helping it, what I guess, what are the conversations that you have about moving to the cloud and the benefits of that? Is it the same stuff we've all been talking about for 20 years, or is there sort of new nuance and what's the big talking points there?
Yeah, no, cloud has been around now for quite a while, right? And all of us as individual consumers, when you think about it, whether, you shop on Amazon or eBay, we ourselves as individuals have adopted the cloud, I think, much more quickly and rapidly, right? I mean, we think of nothing of going on Amazon and having our credit cards, on there and being able to order. I mean, it's commonplace, right? I do probably 90% of my shopping on Amazon.
We
So
don't even think of it as the cloud.
it
It's just
you
what
don't
we
even think about it. Yeah, it's just what you do
yeah.
nowadays, right? So it's kind of funny how that's evolved like that. But before that, as a consumer, I was nervous myself. Oh my
Sure.
gosh, I got to put my credit card on here, my
Yeah.
my passcode. What if somebody gets it? Now you don't even think twice about it.
Sure. Sure.
So, but I think the business market has obviously come leaps and bounds, right? There's more companies that have embraced the cloud. They've realized that it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere,
Mhm.
and they really do see the benefits. A lot of companies nowadays they don't want to be in the business of maintaining software and hardware
Yeah.
and having departments to support these systems. The whole evolution of, client server now to cloud-based systems, it's just so much easier and convenient for companies to subscribe to software and just, have a yearly fee where
Yeah.
all of that is taken care of. So though, when you think about it, those funds that they were using for, on-premise or maintenance of software or staff, they
Yeah.
can now take those dollars and refocus and redirect those to other more proactive areas within their business and let companies like Acumatica and the software vendors manage all that for you. I mean, it's incredible. We do two major, upgrades a year. We provide all of that to a customer and make it just very easy for them to maintain their IT systems nowadays.
Yeah, and that seems to me to be such a relief once it happens, even if it's a little bit of a nail biter for owners and frankly, IT people internally. There's always some concern about handing over the keys to the into the whole thing, and but I'm sure after a successful deployment, there must be just huge kind of sighs of relief and oh my gosh, I can't believe we waited this long.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, we do go back actively with customers that have gone live, and they're fantastic because they'll provide references for new customers. They'll talk about where the product has helped them save on efficiencies and provided them just better use of their time.
Mm.
So the feedback, and again, it's great feedback because now it's coming directly from the customer who's been actively using the product for a year or so, and they've been able to collect enough data to say, wow, by implementing Acumatica, we have a 25% better efficiency, or, we're able to have 95, 100% visibility of where our inventory is, as an example.
Yeah.
Or we can see better ordering patterns on our e-commerce site and be able to track ordering patterns from customers and that kind of thing. So, yeah, you're right, John. The feedback that you get is invaluable, and it's a proof point that the software does make a difference.
I love that. And it sounds to me, based on what you're saying, like the folks who have legacy systems and maybe a whole bunch of inefficiencies that have built up over the years, and rightfully so, are a little bit anxious about handing things over, also have the most to benefit from making this transition. Like if you're going from inefficient legacy system to this is like a night and day transition as compared to maybe going from a version that's 98% of the way there to one that's 100% of the way there. You get such a lift from this first foray into a fully integrated system. And that must be like a huge selling point and very rewarding for you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on is making sure customers are comfortable
Yep.
with the decision, right?
Yep.
We never want to push or, cajole or I mean, obviously we're in sales, we want to sell the product and so forth,
Yes.
but our biggest concern is to get them to the point where they say to themselves, yeah, this is the right decision. And they may be apprehensive and a little bit tentative, which is okay. That's fine. You're never going to go into something 100% where, oh, wow, this is nothing bad's going to happen. But, we reassure them that when you employ us as your implementer, we're going to be with you all the way from the kickoff meeting, all the way to go live. It's a complete turnkey solution. We assign all the right people and individuals to do the training, do the data migration, help you with everything along the way. And we say to them too, as much as it's important to pick the right software, it's as equally or more important to pick the right partner. It's like a marriage, right? I mean, as corny as that sounds, it's true, because someone's going to leave the toilet seat up, someone's going to leave the cap off the toothpaste, but when those things happen, and they will in any implementation, there's going to be pitfalls. It's inevitable. No project goes off 100%, correct all the time.
Yep.
But when you hit those potholes and those little deviations, you want to be able to have a partner that's going to be able to work with you and, have that wherewithal to guide you through some of the challenges. And I think we do a really good job with that. Our CSAT rating, our customer satisfaction rating, has been, 98% or higher. We have a great reference of customers. And we do the right thing at the end of the day. That's our motto, is to just make sure the customer's happy, and we've exceeded expectations, and they'll speak highly of us.
Amazing. Well, that sounds like the recipe for success right there. I love simple mandates.
Yeah, exactly. That speaks volumes. Even when we go through our contracts with our clients, they're very simple. They're not overly complicated. You don't need a room full of lawyers to, analyze every sentence and paragraph. And we want to make it very easy and simple, like you said, for customers to do business with us. You couldn't have said it better.
Amazing. Dan, this has been a great conversation. Can you let us know where people can find you if they want to get in touch and talk ERP and system?
Yeah, I would love it. I could give you my email and my direct number if that helps.
Yeah, that's great. We'll put that in the show notes if you want to send that to me afterwards, and that way find you. We'll have the URL, of course, for the company in there as well.
Would love to.
This has been amazing, Dan. I had high expectations for this call and this podcast, and they were exceeded. So thank you very much for your time today and for joining us.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate it. I always enjoy talking to you. It's a good dialogue, and I think we covered a lot of good topics. We may have solved a second set of all the world's problems today.
That's right. This is part 2, and there may be a part 3 coming. The world is spinning that way.
That's right. And there's so much going on. We got to be able to cover it. So I look forward
Maybe we'll do this weekly.
to the next get together. Yeah, I would love it.
Dan and John show. All right. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.